Hi, Bammy.
Hi. I stopped editing because you were, and I thought we'd get tied up in knots.
Trying to respond to your suggestions, and I also tried to get rid of all the formatting changes because it was just, I don't think we needed to keep the.
Well, I started putting in things, and then I saw you'd started editing, so I thought at that point I'm coming out fast before I conflict anything. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I thought, which I didn't put in, but in fact, I think you put a comment on, was about the UQ section.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's happening about the other paper, but if there is another paper, some of that.
Yeah, so we have started working on it. It's been a bit slower recently, but providing that it could be a bit, it probably won't be ready by the end of March. But if there's some leeway,
but if one knows it's coming, then
yeah,
possibly a bit of that might
go into that instead. Yeah,
and with a cross reference.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing I didn't.
Yeah, it's all useful information, but I think it's at the moment it just seems to be more of a history of UQ rather than
exactly. It reads really well. It's but possibly it's not quite in the right style to go with the rest of the thing at the moment.
I mean, we did. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
or hello again, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did. I think originally we did sort of the brief. I think was for them to write. I assume you're talking about the UQ section.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the original brief was to sort of lay out a sort of almost like how you would do uncertainty quantification in a ideal scenario, and then the idea being that the rest of the paper could sort of feed off that, but I guess that's not quite working at the moment.
What, in this paper you mean?
Yeah, so I think
because I had the idea that it was going into the other paper more, but perhaps that was, we haven't always been quite certain.
Yeah.
But if the other one is going to exist, it may be that some of the basic, more expository how to do UQ for pandemics might go in there. I don't know. Or maybe the bit that's how to do UQ in general goes somewhere else, and how you apply it for pandemics here. I don't know. Anyway, it's obviously up to you guys what you think.
Hi, Daniel, Peter.
Just to say, I have to go up first today, I'm afraid.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. That's fine. We can kind of prioritize. Is there anything you particularly want to?
Not really. I mean, I had a quick read through this afternoon, and I think it's definitely coming, and I think it needs a bit of polishing in places.
Yeah, definitely.
Joining up, but I think
Hi, Luke.
I think overall, I thought it read quite well.
Yeah, so Lorenzo put some stuff in last night, so I've tried to reorganize that a bit according to what he was suggesting, but that's still a bit unpolished, and there were some sections as well that I think other people, I don't know if it was Daniel or just me who had written, which looked really good, but I guess just kind of marrying that up with what Lorenzo's done and making sure it all flows in the same sort of style is the next stage. But yeah, I think it's definitely come on, putting it all together. It's nice to see it in one document, and we can hopefully move forward from there. I've also put all the older versions into the archive, but they're still there if anyone wants to go back and check what I've done or think I've missed something out, then it's all available if you need it. I don't know who else we're expecting. TJ or Ian is joining.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Don't know, I'm afraid. I've not heard nothing.
Okay, well, that's fine. Maybe give it a couple more minutes.
I mean, I suppose one question is sort of broadly how do you want to proceed this over the next week? You know,
Yeah.
when are we trying to have a sort of complete draft completed?
Well, I think we're probably maybe a week off a reasonable draft of it, that we can start thinking about who to send that to in the first instance. You know, I'm happy to work on stuff, but at the same time, I don't want to step on people's toes if, you know, other people are happy to work on it. I've gone through and made some comments on individual sections of things. Some of it's very much just editorial references for me to remember to reference other sections or add references to papers, but there was a few suggestions. I know Valerie's started to make some suggestions before I interrupted her flow of thought.
At some point, I'm very happy to sort of read it all through and, you know, with a slightly editorial eye, but I don't want to do that while everybody's still rewriting stuff and moving.
Yeah.
Counterproductive, really.
I think Lorenzo's said that he wants to add a couple more paragraphs to section 3 as well. Daniel,
I have to do that. Section 3, right?
Yeah, so if there's anything you want to add there, it's still, I mean, there's lots of little paragraphs with headings. I'm not sure whether we want to keep the headings there or whether to just get rid of those. I think partly Lorenzo put those in to order the paragraphs by topic. But we haven't really got that in any other section, so it could be we just get rid of the subheadings. And then there's still some bullet points at the end of that section, which I'm not sure whether have been incorporated into the rest of that section, and we can get rid of those, or whether there's still things that need adding. But I can follow that up with Lorenzo if he doesn't. He said he was going to join us tonight, so hopefully he'll be here in a bit. I know Philip and Luke have already got external feedback on section 7.5, and they've got all their references and things included as well. So I think that's kind of what we're aiming for. There's quite a few questions, suggestions and comments from people. Do you know if those have already been incorporated, Luke? Or have you made edits, or are they still to be dealt with?
So because Philip and I got a lot of feedback that was related to the fact that the experts or the readers could not really see the wider context, we decided to wait to integrate until we have the whole project.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, feel free if you want to send this version out to the same people, if that would be helpful. It's a bit more, I mean, it still will have some more editing, but it might give them a better idea about the general context. Or we can wait another week and see, you know, might have a slightly more formal draft then.
I think that's what Philip was aiming for then.
Yeah, I know he can't make it this week, so maybe if he's here next week, then we can use that as a time frame to get the more formal draft. So I think my major suggestions were that we still need some references in most of the sections other than 7.5. Once we've got all the sections complete, we need to think about how to highlight the challenges. So different papers have seemed to take different approaches, either highlighting in bold or having section headings for each of the individual challenges. So I don't know if anyone's got any suggestions or preferences with respect to that.
What about making one or a few words bold that relate to the challenge, just in text?
Yeah, so I think that's what we've done that in the modeling paper. I think that we When,
It
I
would be
think-
good to have headings now with sentences of.
Yeah, although to be honest,
Oh,
I'm moving more towards headings. I think
Yeah.
the modeling one seems to be. It did have lots of bold text, but
Mhm.
it's moving towards little mini sections, which are where the heading is kind of
Okay,
a challenge area, at least, if
Yeah.
if not actually expressed as this is a challenge.
So it's more in a sort of paragraph heading. Are you,
Yeah.
are you thinking?
Yeah, section 7.5 is not organized that way currently. So there are some lists, or it would be every other sentence is a new challenge. So that might
yeah, so that's what I did make a comment along that line. I'm happy to go with what you guys think, but it might be, if we're going for a more unified framework across the other sections, if it was possible to put that into a more structured way, that might be beneficial.
think- Certainly in the modeling paper, there's a heading, but then there's lots of challenges within that. But we're just not planning to enumerate them all. So we just tried to break up the text a little bit into kind of themes.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I think you've got in your numbered list 1 to 4, and then there's some highlighted specific challenges below that, but maybe you could kind of incorporate the challenges into the numbered list if that's feasible.
Well, yeah, we need to think about that. Yeah, if everybody agrees on an approach, we can try to mold section 5 into that.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like what Glenn's suggesting with the section head, or just sort of subheadings within each of them. And, just not necessarily a single challenge, but just some overarching themes within each of the sections. I mean, I quite like the 4 subheadings that you've already got in 7.5, the formulating useful questions, developing models, and identifying important parameters, predicting the expected impact, and communicating model assumptions.
Yeah, a few weeks back, we discussed that these kinds of overarching themes also apply to the other sections, perhaps. So maybe we should investigate whether we can unify that way somehow. If that is
in some kind of discussion, maybe. Or...
Yeah, that's one of the other things I highlighted. We still need a discussion section, which I've stepped back until we've had some more content in the rest of it, but we're probably not far off being able to draw out some either recommendations or overall kind of themes that we can see from the different sections. But that might be a good starting point, Luke, that we can look at those 4.
okay.
If you think those, it certainly seems like they could be relevant to all aspects of estimation.
Well, there were links between the UQ part and our part with regards to parameter identifiability, I think it was.
Yeah. I think there's aspects of that across estimation, whether it's, expert elicitation, UQ, or model-based inference, it's going to be issues with identifiability. Hi, Dennis. Thanks for joining.
Oh, hi there.
Yeah, I don't.
So in terms of moving forward from this week, Peter, I think we were discussing UQ before you arrived. We were discussing the fact that at the moment there's, it starts off with quite a detailed discussion of UQ in general, and then there's the sort of challenges at the end. And we're wondering how much of this would be more relevant in the tutorial paper rather than here, or what your feeling is on that. And whether to make it more challenge focused.
How much you need to know to understand the challenges.
Yeah.
And in general, I think the community doesn't know, and that's one reason why they don't do it.
Mhm.
I'll have a look. I'll see if I can have a look at it over the next week.
Okay.
So after last week's meeting, TJ, Ian, and I had a long email discussion of how we might change it, but we didn't actually change anything. We just had an email discussion about it. So I'll see if
That's
I can
the first bullet.
extract some stuff from that. So we had some discussion about the difference between physically based models and statistically based models, and
Yeah.
which brings up all the issues about model discrepancy. So I might be able to cut it down and keep the essence, which is really what I
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, there's loads of good stuff. I'm not suggesting we get rid of all of it, but I just wondered if we could refocus it on specific challenges, and then when you say talking about challenges relating to history matching, then you could discuss a bit about
Yeah,
what history
I think
matching is,
we
and
could.
then say this is the
I mean, at the
challenges.
moment, I wrote it and then added the challenges at the end, but I think
Yeah.
I could scatter the challenges through the description.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would
Talk about the
make
fact
it
that there is
more.
model discrepancy, and therefore there's a challenge of how you find the model discrepancy and how you include it in the analysis. Yeah, I think we can do that, and that'll make.
I mean, that would probably be enough. I don't think you need to get rid of a lot of it, because I think, as you say, it is really relevant to make sure people understand, but just in terms of making it more consistent with the other sections and papers to make
Yeah, I
it
can try
more challenge led.
And also
Right.
cross-refer, of course, to the other paper as you can. would
Yeah.
be good, where there'll be more detail, presumably.
So, hi, Lorenzo.
Hi guys, sorry, meeting overrun.
No, that's fine. We haven't. We've just been talking about where we're up to and what we think are the next steps for the paper.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk through what you've added? Because I know you added quite a lot with Chris's input yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. Chris wrote a couple of paragraphs that I thought were very valid ones in the connection with data, so section 7.3, and then I was just trying to fit them in and just restructure the section in a way that made more logical sense to me. Well, Ben seemed to be okay with that list. There are still a couple of bullet points at the bottom that I think contain some material that is quite valuable.
Yep. Yeah, I got rid of a couple of them that I think you'd covered elsewhere, but I've left most of them there just because I think you still need to make sure those are covered in other sections.
Absolutely. And then you left at the bottom something that said Lorenzo and Chris to complete. But
yeah.
To be honest, I would just probably add a sentence. I think there was a discussion before. In the last of the bullet points, there is a discussion about, for example, methods are computationally intensive. And so I could just say, so there is a key challenge in balancing efficiency and speed against robustness. I would just maybe just add a small point there saying that, I mean, the concept is the same one. It's not necessarily that the data is that big, but if you're asked to do an analysis every week, you can just, you have to kind of download 300 megabytes of data and then run your analysis. And so it's a matter of kind of computational, like it's basically like do things quickly. And so if your model is complex, then it takes time and so on. There's nothing more than that. So as far as I'm concerned, it's all kind of contained in the computational efficiency bit, which is just above. So I'm don't have much more to add personally.
No, so that, I mean, that comment for you to formalize was before you'd put anything in at all, and it's just remained from there. So it wasn't specifically related to that bullet point. It was just the remnants of what was there before. So, but I perhaps leave that to you and Chris to finish off. And Daniel, I know you've been heavily involved in that section as well. But have you had a chance to look at it? Are you happy with the way it's been reformulated?
In section 3. Sorry.
Yes, sorry,
Yeah.
section 3. I know you'd worked quite a bit on some of the paragraphs already. So
Yeah, I've seen that this has a different structure now, so I have to go and because it has some this bullets, so I'm but so sorry.
So the quick question, Dan, is whether the original text was written by you.
Right.
Okay, because there was a paragraph that I was very confused about. I just couldn't understand what you were trying to say.
Yeah,
And
I've
Jasmina
seen your
added it.
comments, so maybe I can clarify some things here in the text. So okay.
So I guess
All
the
right.
numbered bullet point list at the start we'll get rid of ultimately once you've added the remaining sections. Lorena, was that the plan? It was just a kind of organizing list.
But then the will have this this kind of structure with this trying to make these bullet points and
No, sorry,
this is what I'm
bullet,
confused.
there are 2 bullet points we're talking about. One is just at the beginning of the document, of that section in the document. I just suggested a way of kind of putting the material in a certain order. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then each paragraph is preceded by a bullet point, but it's just a subtitle for that paragraph. But we will remove the bullet point with that title. It's just going to be a sequence.
Okay, so okay, fine,
Yeah.
that's good.
And then at the bottom, instead, there is a bullet point list with some content that still probably needs to be made into text.
So there's an italic sentence, which is specific challenges posed by changing nature and quantity of data over the course of a pandemic. So under that, there's still some lists, which I think, I'm not sure, I think Jasmina's put some, I think you probably put quite a few as well, Daniel, but we just want to make sure before we get rid of those that the ideas that have been written down are actually incorporated into the text above.
Yeah, so this material was there before I started writing the section, and then because I guess it was some thoughts that people had over the time, and then they were added here. So, and then I was just afraid not to leave anything out. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I guess that's your task for this week. If you 3, I guess, Lorenzo, Chris and Daniel could keep in touch and either just leave comments for each other or however best you want to organize yourselves. But I think that section has made a huge amount of progress this week, which is great, but just needs a bit of final.
I just
tweaking.
didn't know who wrote the original text, because then Jasmina changed something. And
Yeah, I think so. And she's also written, I thought those bullet points were hers, but she's actually written comments not criticizing, but suggesting changes to them. So I'm assuming it's a mixture of people who've written those bullet points.
Okay, so I can meet separately with you, Dan. Dan or Daniel? Daniel, sorry. Daniel. Yes, in particular, I just suggested a slightly different text because I couldn't quite understand what you were trying to say. Jasmina couldn't either, so she overwrote some stuff, and I still wasn't sure what were people trying to say. So I'm happy to kind of have a meeting with you separately and try to make sure that the stuff you were trying to say at the beginning is not lost in any way just because I didn't understand it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And also, if you are unhappy with my suggested ordering, then please.
So all the older versions are saved in the archive as well, so you can go back and retrieve anything if you feel that it's been wrongly changed or you're not happy with things. But that looks good.
The other slightly higher level comment is that obviously there will be a lot of overlapping with the data.
Yeah.
Paper, and I reread it this afternoon, like trying to check how much of that stuff is really just purely a problem with the data and how much is a problem with the estimation. And I feel I couldn't see anything that really doesn't belong here as a challenge.
No, my comment there was just a general point that we need to be careful when we're editing that, more comment to myself. So it definitely wasn't specifically linked to anything I read, but I just thought it's worth thinking about this so we don't overlap much with Nigel's paper as well.
Absolutely, and it's the same feeling I had as well. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that could have been like a proper data challenge rather than an estimation challenge. So I reread it today with exactly this eye, and still I couldn't.
No, I didn't. Nothing jumped out to me at this stage that it's clearly being repeated. But when Valerie goes through it, and maybe that's something that you could look at and see if there's anything obviously that's.
But I think the data paper is more concerned with sort of higher level issues to do with
infrastructure and training and things,
rather than the detailed use of data in estimation. And so I suspect that things that are actually to do with estimation within a specific model and estimating things probably fits here, or even in the modeling paper, whereas they're more concerned with, as Ben says, with infrastructure and processes and so on.
I think, thanks, Valerie. It's very good to know that you can see quite a clear distinction, because that's
well, that was the distinction in my head, but maybe these things gradually get eroded over time, don't they?
Also, I have to say that in your room is a bit dark, but you have some stripes of light.
Sorry,
No.
it was the sun was shining in my face, and now we've got really, really black clouds, and it's pouring, and we had hail, and all the windowsills had ice on them a minute ago. So
it's just that no.
Light on.
No, it wasn't a problem. It just you could could easily look like an evil mastermind, like a Darth Vader sitting in the background. And
it wasn't intended.
You were a bit kind of intimidating, I have to say.
Is it any better now?
No, but it's fine.
Well, I put all the lights on. I can't do any more.
Sorry, it's just you could be part of a film as the evil.
I just need a cat then.
So you need a white cat.
And the only other point, query I had, Glenn, you've made a couple of points about moving sections to section 6 point something, and I wasn't sure whether you meant 6 point something or whether it was actually 7.
Yeah, I think the second one I definitely meant 7.5.
Okay.
Although maybe it's just a bridge to that section, in fact.
Yeah.
And
there's obviously links between those two, which I haven't changed until.
And then I think 6.4, I actually did mean 6.4, but
okay.
I'm now thinking that maybe we do need something on that here.
Yeah, I've moved some of the introduction from 7.4 into the main introduction, and something from the main introduction to 7.4, because I think TJ's description was more relevant overall, whereas what
I like
that just specific.
I like that, but I kind of think the model structure thing, we need to say something here, because I think model structure obviously determines what you can estimate.
Yeah,
so I think it's an important point to make that, but that paragraph might need a bit of change. But
yeah. Okay, I don't think there was anything drastically else that I wanted to.
A question about section 7.5.
Yep.
So the expert feedback, these experts, they were all experts in the field of structured expert judgment. So really on eliciting, experts on eliciting expert judgment on specific parameters of the model, whereas the section is broader than that, and they kind of tripped over that. Do we want to focus this section really on the parameter aspect, or do you think it is interesting to keep the broader perspective that it has now, which might mean that we need to change the title of that section to something broader, like expert involvement or expert knowledge, rather than something very specific related to structured expert judgment? Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, I think the broader topic is of interest. I don't think we just need to focus too much on.
I mean, is elicitation is that a broader term or?
Yeah, it could be.
Or is it the structure which is the problem?
The thing is that as this is an estimation paper, some of the subjects, although interesting, or some of the subjects that this section touches on are really about model development, like model structure, and that kind of precedes the estimation part. So I'm not sure whether you guys want to have that topic touched on in this paper, but rather in, say, for instance, in the modeling paper.
Is there somewhere obvious it would go in the modeling paper, Glenn? Or do we just count it as part of the estimation, the broad estimation?
Yeah, I think my
my
feeling was it's kind of a broad part of estimation and sort of, you know, so in a way the paper kind of follows a kind of logical progression for, you know, through different types of estimation, and it, you know, elicitation is one way of trying to figure out what the situation is, and modeling is another. But that's my very naive view of it.
For instance, the first two bullets in that list of 4 that is in the somewhere in the middle of that section 7.5, the 4 broad categories. Those first 2 bullets are really something on topics that precede estimation, so formulating the right questions and then developing the models. I could easily see that going into a modeling paper.
Yeah, now you mention, now you say that, I can see that.
But estimation doesn't have to just be model parameters. It can also be estimating the model and constructing the model, I would say. Whereas the modeling, it's, you know, you're not formally modeling at this point, you're still developing the paradigm that you're then going to go on into the estimation process.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I see that it
linked, obviously.
It's whether or not it's worth keeping it here and just having this section on expert elicitation and talking about all the different aspects of it, or whether there's room to copy those across to the modeling paper and have a discussion about expert elicitation in relation to modeling and
model development.
I can certainly have a think about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind in either direction. So I guess it's up to you, Luke and Philip and Glenn, if you can find an obvious place to move it across to modeling.
I'd be happy for the material to be recycled, because I think it fits very well with the model development stage. The modeling paper, I would guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the moment we probably don't have anything on that. At the moment, I think we did discuss the idea of early on. We kind of discussed the idea of models should be co-developed with stakeholders and that kind of thing, which that would fit into. But we've subsequently kind of we never picked up on that really, did we, Valerie? I don't think.
Yeah.
So that might fill that gap.
It might still be there somewhere in terms of communicating, and but I don't remember whether we certainly did discuss it, but I can't remember whether it appears in.
Yeah, and I guess it could go in that last section about sort of making models kind of useful to policy, in the sense that it could be about engaging with them through the whole process, whereas at the moment I think that section is largely about, once you have the model and your outputs, how do you talk to policy people about it? Hi, Jasmine.
Hi. I mean, my other question here, I don't know whether Luke knows. I mean, there was discussion of a tutorial paper on expert elicitation too, with Will Probert. Do you know if that's any further forward, Luke?
By my knowledge, no, it's still on the wish list, but Will said he didn't have time until
April, wasn't it?
Well beyond the deadlines that have been set so far for the paper here. Yeah.
It's just, I suppose that if one knows that it's going to be forthcoming, one could still put in references to it here.
Sure, yes.
But
That paper will be very much focused on the structured judgment, expert judgment. So that's really very focused.
Okay.
I spoke to Christoph Fraser, who leads that Oxford group in which Will Probert is part of, and mentioned this paper, and he said that they're keen to do it, they just don't have time. So if there was a slightly more flexible deadline, I speak to them regularly, I could ask if that's still of interest.
We know it is of interest. Yeah, Philip is in touch with them about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the deadline is flexible in the sense that extra papers can be added to the issue, you know, the special issue. Obviously, so we don't have to hold everything up until we've got all the papers. So the main body of the papers we hope to get sorted to reasonable deadlines, but one or two could be added slightly late if there was a wish to do that. So it's not absolutely hard and fast, the current deadline.
Will knows this. Philip told him. So I think the pressure is off on their side as well.
So it's just a question of, if this one's going in first, then one has to have a rough idea how to what's going to be there that we can usefully refer to. But Philip will know that.
I think we all identified the details that we didn't want to discuss here, and they were scrapped, thinking that they were going to go in that accompanying.
Right.
Yeah.
Can
Lorenzo just, sorry, Jasmina, go.
I was going to say I'm very late to the party, so let me know is the paper fully written, submitted? And is that what's happening now?
I think you're in the wrong group.
I'm sorry. I'm going to the other one.
The other meeting.
Either that or you're in the future.
No, so we have a single document now. We've combined all the sections together, and we have a reasonable draft of each of the sections, but it's just going to be a bit of polishing up now in each of the individual sections. I know you've been working on 7.3, mostly with Daniel. Lorenzo and Chris have added quite a bit overnight to that, and we've restructured it a little bit based on what they've added. But there's still some extra bullet points that we need to check whether that material is actually being covered or whether we can just delete them or whether something else needs added. So we'd be grateful for your opinion, particularly on 7.3, on how that currently is, and any comments or suggestions on what needs polishing up. And we need to start thinking about references as well for each of the sections. 7.5 already has a bibliography, but the other sections don't currently. So I think that's the discussion so far that's relevant to you. But any comments you have on the rest of the post? Good. Any comments you have on the other sections, then please feel free to make those as well.
Maybe you can tell me all about the data paper while you're at it. Sorry, because I missed that as well. No, I'm joking.
We had quite a short meeting this morning, but yeah. Okay, thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, cheers.
See you next week.
Glenn, I will get back to you on your question. Sorry, I haven't done it yet.
No worries. Thanks. Bye.
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 Lorenzo asked what paper we were talking about. So there's been the suggestion that a couple of other tutorial type papers in addition to the challenge papers could be added. So we're possibly doing a UQ1, which is currently in the early stages, and we've also talked about an expert elicitation one where it would kind of talk through the process of how to do expert elicitation for those who aren't familiar with the processes.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted, and you were talking about other stuff, and I was like, oh, what's happening now? And I just didn't want to disturb everybody.
No, it's fine. By the time I typed out the response, I thought it was easier just to.
Yeah, sorry.
And for anyone else who wasn't aware of that.
So on expert elicitations and the other one you mentioned?
UQ.
Yeah, UQ, uncertainty quantification.
Like basically taking it out from this paper and making another.
No, so we're going to keep in here what are the sort of the challenges and the idea of what are the methodological or the infrastructure challenges remaining, but then we would have a separate paper that gives a kind of case study and says this is how you would do UQ for an epidemic model, for example.
It's more like a tutorial, a state of the art. Yeah.
So yeah, it's more kind of what's the current landscape, you know, given where we currently are with the uncertainty quantification, what would be the suggested approach, what you need to do, how to calibrate a model, how to build an emulator. And then the challenges would be much more about this is what we still need to do and how we should prepare for the next pandemic. I think that's my understanding, but these aren't my ideas, so you know I'm not.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay.
It would be it would use a fairly simple model, but it would take you through all the steps you would have to do, and hopefully we could publish the code as well.
That's very good.
And I assuming the expert elicitation would be somewhat similar to that, but obviously that's up to.
Yeah, there are a lot of different
Well,
techniques in expert elicitation and when and rules or recommendations for when to use which. So you can write a very long paper about that.
Yeah, and there was some talk about a visualization one. I don't know if there's an update on. Oh, I've lost Lorenzo. He's obviously offended by that suggestion. Is there an update on the visualization?
I haven't heard any more.
No?
I mean, obviously, you might have talked about it this morning, except that you didn't because Min was missing because he, like others of us, turned up at the wrong time.
He was talking about it when I coincided at the same wrong time as him. So he was talking about the visualization paper. So I think that's still a live possibility.
Good.
So did the data meeting happen then this morning or not?
Yeah, we had a short meeting at 9:30 because Nigel needed to get off for another commitment. So we met for half an hour and then we had rough with Nigel, then he left and a few of us hung around after that just for a bit more of a discussion about.
Picked up the people who'd arrived late.
Yeah.
You're being very, very diplomatic, Ben. But
no, well, Nigel asked us to carry on discussing things.
Arrived late because I totally forgot. I just didn't look at the calendar. You know, you think you know things and you don't look, and it was entirely my fault. But I wasn't the only one. So we carried on a bit afterwards.
Can I ask? At some point we were thinking about a paper of within host and between host modeling, but did that paper then become endemicity versus elimination paper, and the within host stuff didn't shine? Is that right?
I remember the discussion, but I have no idea. Were you gonna get in touch with?
No, it was more.
Mike?
It was more sort of. I was going to get in touch with Mark Chaplin, who is, I think, too busy. But I also think sort of. So somebody like Katharina Litko might be a good person if we wanted to include within host. But it just. But I don't think there is a scope for a separate paper around that because there isn't enough work really for a separate paper. But I just wondered whether that's the feeling of everyone else.
I thought originally the idea was to put something in the modeling paper.
Yeah, and we did that. So we have that in the modeling paper.
I don't know about any thoughts of a further paper.
It came in a discussion very early on in where I think Deirdre Hollingsworth was, and was it Jessica Metcalf?
Jess Metcalf, yeah. So, and I mean, they, as you say, they're both very much involved in the endemicity elimination, whatever paper, number 5 anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't looked or seen that lately, but so maybe there's some stuff there.
Okay.
That's relevant. that's not quite so far on, I think, as some of the others. So it makes
No,
it-
because I'm thinking through some work that I want to do on linking within host and between hosts, and I was wondering to brainstorm with some people if there was a cohort. But that was my thinking.
Yeah, it certainly sounds interesting if you want to.
I'd be
Well,
interested.
Ben, you and
Send
I
an
need to
email.
catch up anyway on
Yeah,
various
we do.
things.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've
we
been
can
a
catch
little
up.
bit of a
No, we're all
what's the
super
word,
busy at the moment.
recluse at the moment.
so-
Just
don't
mean
blame you.
I'd be interested as well. I work on within host modeling as well, so happy to contribute.
Excellent. Okay, I'll set up a meeting then.
Yeah, if you send an email or, well, maybe an
Do
email.
people
better
use
rather than
Slack?
but-
I mean,
It-
people
it
are not really using
varies.
Slack. I don't get responses, so I'm assuming people aren't using it.
Well, people seem to do things. I don't think they necessarily respond in Slack, but they pick up messages and then seem to have done something on the Dropbox. So, but yeah, maybe email people.
So
are
if I
less
send
likely
a
to
Zoom in
at all.
Slack, will people get that?
Should
They
do.
should do, yeah.
If you tag them, they'll read
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
Because I use Slack a lot with like people I'm collaborating in America
Yeah,
and in Australia, but
I've got quite a
it seems
few
to be
teams
this
on that.
Slack isn't working as much, and I just wondered. Okay. I changed the direction of the chat. So what
No,
were
it's
you
fine.
talking before I joined?
think-
Sorry.
I'm not, well, we were sort of reaching, for me at least, a sort of conclusion, unless anyone else has anything particular, but I think it's just working individually on our sections just to sort of finish and polish them off and put in some references where possible, if you have any ideas.
I had a brief
we
look
also-
now, and Lorenzo has done a great job on the 7.3. So I will read through that, but looks not.
Yeah,
looks
there's
good
still
on a
some-
first read.
Some of your comments from previously, I'm not sure whether they've been addressed or not, but feel free to follow up on those. I know Chris has done some work on this as well.
Yeah.
As well as Lorenzo. But I think, I'm hoping by this time next week, we might have a reasonable draft that we can start thinking about sending externally. We've talked a bit before about who to send it to. I don't know if anyone's got any other ideas about.
Can you remind us who we talked about?
Good question. I think, did we suggest
I don't,
Frank? Did we suggest? I know he's looked at some of the other papers.
yeah. I mean, obviously it'll go to Hans.
Ants as well, yeah, of course, yeah.
They're all, Hans is looking at all of them, but other than that,
What about
Yeah,
Graham
yes.
Ackland?
Yeah, I don't know him that well, but imagine you'd be.
I mean, he will send a very critical response back, but maybe that's good.
That's what we need, yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Valerie?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know him well enough really to know whether this is the more sort of statistical aspects, which is what we're talking about here, are really his area.
He's been sending me some statistical work he's been doing that's on sort of deaths and severity of whether it is more severe or not, the new variant and things like that.
The chat of last week's or 2 weeks ago's meeting, I think all the names were typed in that chat. So if that chat was saved.
Oh,
Don't know.
does it? If one goes to the recording, is the chat part of the recording? I'm sorry, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
What about a modeler like Graham Medley?
We could certainly. I mean, Graham has
Busy.
offered.
I think we should send the modeling paper to Graham more than this one.
Yeah, I mean, but what about some? Do you want a variety of people with different sort of inference approaches? I mean, Phil O'Neill would be.
Yes, Phil would be good.
Well, and Danny, if she's not being.
But is Danny's not going to be an author? Well, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Danny's not really been involved much recently, but it could still. You could maybe prod her to jump off the fence. She can either be a helpful critic, or she can jump back into being an author.
Lorenzo is in touch a lot with her. Maybe You can ask Lorenzo. Is Lorenzo still here?
I think Lorenzo.
No, he sent me a
Oh.
message to say his laptop crashed, so he may join
I
us again if he gets it fixed.
I can ask her, but I think Lorenzo will be. It's better if friend is the right word, collaborator than I am. So.
I guess there's people like Dan Wilkinson who work on stochastic models in general and estimation. He might be. I know he's done some work in UQ as well, I think, loosely.
We can think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, I will look at 7.3. I feel like I am a little bit behind on things, but I you know, do tell me do this or do that, because I'm doing too many things at the same time and they come in oscillatory behavior. I'm on the peak at the moment.
Yeah, so I think unless there's anything anyone else wants to mention at this time, I think just, yeah, if we try and polish our sections up by next week, that would be great. And I'll try and get in touch with individual people if I've not heard anything by middle of next week.
Good. And just before we go, for the modeling paper, which I'm planning to do some work on tonight or tomorrow morning, we're just reading through and kind of reviewing it. Is that what we're doing right now?
I think that's what Glenn's asked us to do, yeah. I don't think there was anything specific. He said he might get in touch with specific people if he saw that there was particular things that needed addressed, but otherwise just, yeah.
And we
review.
save it as our reviewed version rather than on top of other people's reviewed version.
Well, I think the last time I looked, there was lots of initials just being added onto the existing document, but
then that's
maybe
fine.
Contact Glenn, he might be better to.
I think that works as long as you're not doing it at the last minute. If you do it at the last minute, then we're all doing it at once, and then
okay, I will do it very late tonight, i.e. before tomorrow morning, so somebody else can do it tomorrow morning.
Okay, then you wait till we've gone to bed. And then...
Yes, I'll wait till you all go to bed. Okay, that's the plan. Good to see everybody.
And you.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week. Oh, tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, are we?
Yeah, I think that's everything for this week. Unless there's anything else, but yeah. Enjoy your dinners.
And you. I'll go and start cooking.
Bye.
Bye for now.